Hey everyone, it's TV Guy Jay from Stormforce Games. Good morning. I just want to kind of talk a little bit about what happened in Las Vegas the other day, um, and kind of say some things that's been on my mind. You guys know from watching my streams, and maybe you don't know, um, I certainly don't keep my opinions to myself. Um, I will stop gameplay for a while, um, just to say something that I've been either holding in or thinking about, and I want to talk about what happened. Um, so the other day, somebody um, basically with several weapons of varying types decided to open fire on a concert that was happening near their hotel and killed over 50 people and wounded, I think, like 400 others, or at least caused injury to 400 others. Um, I've been reading a lot on social media since it happened, from people with varying opinions, and there's you know everyone's entitled to their opinion, but just like I'm entitled to mine, and I'm gonna give you my opinion. Um, this isn't a gun thing. All right, this is not a gun problem. Um, this is a problem with society. This is a problem with you and me and everyone else that lives here, and everyone else in the world, really. But let's just focus on us for a minute. Let's focus on us Americans, us people that live in the United States, in the 50 states and territories. Um, this is not a gun problem. I don't believe it's a gun problem, and I'll tell you why. Um, Obviously, details are still kind of like sketchy. Um, the only people that really know the truth right now are the investigators, who are actually working on this crime. So the true details may not come out for months or even years, and we may never know. But from what I understand, from what I've read from several reputable news sources, is that automatic weapons were found. And listening to the video that I heard on social media, that's been spread around social media of the guy actually shooting, it sounds like automatic gunfire. And so immediately I'm suspicious because, well, I'll get into that in a second. But the response to this incident, this horrible act, this horrible act where somebody actually decided that he was gonna end the lives of over 50 innocent people and injure hundreds of others. People have been responding to this saying, ban guns, ban guns, ban guns. We need more gun control. We need more gun laws. We need this and that. We need to take guns away and burn all the guns and destroy them. Well, here's the thing. In the United States, in the 30s, the United States put a ban on automatic weapons. And in the 80s, they I believe, I'll have to look this up, but I believe they banned the production of automatic weapons. Now, that's not to say that people can't own automatic weapons. However, what it does mean is that in order to own an automatic weapon in the United States, you have to go through an extensive background check, a huge background check, very deep and very detailed. You have to apply for a special type of license to own. And this isn't per person. This is per weapon. Okay, so you have to go through this process every time you purchase or want to purchase an automatic weapon. You have to be specially licensed to do so. And that all goes through the government at a federal level, not at a state level. You have to pay a huge amount of money for this license. And So it's the typical person couldn't go out and just get an automatic weapon. They couldn't go down to Cabela's or Walmart and buy a machine gun because they're already banned. You can't. You have to go through firearms dealers, and there's tons of paperwork and a huge amount of money. So the people that say ban guns, ban guns, ban guns, in response to this, the type of weapons that were used in this were already banned. So what are you going to do? What else are you going to do? Are you going to go round up all the guns in this country? Realistically, that's impossible. You can't do that because there's no gun registry. Okay? As a matter of fact, my state, Maine, has made it illegal to have a gun registry for privacy and safety concerns because it's just it's a risk. Okay? Guns already have, or gun owners already have a target on them. Okay, from all of these people that want to ban guns, that want to institute gun control. They, I don't know. It's terrible. But it's not a gun problem. And I want to make that clear. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, it's not a gun problem. The problem is with society. The problem, like I said before, is with you and me and our neighbors. We hate. We look at someone who's different and say, you're different. And the other person says, well, you're different. And then the other person says, well, I hate you. I'm going to kill you. And they kill them. Because they're different. Or because they don't have the same beliefs. Or whatever it is. This country has been kind of trained into hating their neighbor, hating their fellow man. And the problem is that now we are so intolerant of other people that we just assume kill them instead of working out our problems. And mental health comes into play in this whole thing. Obviously, someone who's going to go out and take the lives of over 50 people and injure hundreds more is clearly mentally defective. It used to be that people that were found mentally defective would get locked up in mental hospitals and actually treated. And sometimes it wasn't that great. Sometimes a lot of the asylums and a lot of the mental institutions were not... they didn't do things in a correct manner. But it took those people that were a danger, a legitimate danger to other people, and it took them out of society in a way that allowed them to potentially get help that they needed and also to make the general population a little bit safer. And now what we do is when someone goes out and commits murder and then cuts up their bodies and obviously has some sort of mental defect because a normal person wouldn't do this stuff. They get a slap on the wrist and they get sent to jail, which I guess is all right. At least they're out of general society. They're out of our world. But it doesn't do anything to actually address the problem. And there are a lot of signs and symptoms before someone actually does something like this. A lot of times there's some signs and symptoms. Sometimes there's nothing that you can do. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing, is that sometimes there is no answer. And it's incredibly frustrating. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for lawmakers. It's frustrating for you and your neighbor and the guy at the gas station and all that. It's frustrating because sometimes things happen in this world that you can't prevent. No matter what kind of laws you have, no matter what kind of restrictions, no matter what kind of help and resources you have, sometimes there is nothing you can do. And people don't hate anything more than being told there's nothing that you can do about something. So what do you do? Well, like I said, sometimes you can't do anything. Sometimes bad things happen. And unfortunately, as I said, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to predict it. In the case of this Vegas guy, from what I've read, from what I understand, and again, this is preliminary information, the only people that really know the truth right now or anything close to the truth are the investigators. But like I said, from what I know and from what I understand, this guy had a clean record. And I believe he didn't have anything as far as even a traffic ticket. You know, what do you do? How do you predict that? You take away his guns? How? Constitutionally, he was able to buy guns legally, and he was within his rights to buy weapons. You know, the provisions in the Constitution for the right to bear arms, that's the Second Amendment. That's number 2. And it's second only to freedom of speech. It's not like the 23rd Amendment or the 64th Amendment. It's not something that was thought of recently. It was something that came with this country. Do I think everyone has the right to own weapons? No. Obviously, criminals, felons, people that have been convicted of crimes, not just arrested, but convicted. And that's the important distinction. Because not everyone that gets arrested is guilty of something. And I want to make that clear. People that have been convicted of crimes should not be allowed to own firearms. They forfeited their rights as an American, as a citizen of this country, when they decided to commit a crime. That's a choice that they made, a conscious choice that they made. Do I believe that people who are mentally defective should own firearms? No. People that are mentally defective should not own firearms for obvious reasons. The problem is, unless somebody is diagnosed mentally defective in some way, it's like they're not at all. And you can't force people to undergo psychiatric evaluations, except in certain circumstances, certain legal circumstances. So how do you do it? What is the answer? And I can tell you right now that the answer, unfortunately, is not to take away guns. Because the guns aren't the problem. And the fact that automatic weapons are already banned in this country is proof of that. Automatic weapons are already banned, and yet he used automatic weapons to kill people, as far as we know. It may have also been what's called a bump fire stock, or a type of stock that allows a semi-automatic weapon to function as if it were an automatic weapon. Doesn't make it an automatic weapon. It just allows for the trigger to be pulled rapidly in a way that simulates automatic gunfire. That's also a possibility. Again, I haven't seen the weapons that he used. I don't know for sure. And I'm certainly not a weapons expert, though I do own firearms. And there's another thing. I own 2 firearms. I own a pistol and I own an AR-15. Neither gun has ever killed anybody. They sit around. They're locked up where I can get to them if I need to. But they're kept out of reach of children and they're kept safe and whatnot. But again, they're there if I need them. And all that time sitting around, they've never once gone and left and, gone down the street and killed somebody. So it's interesting when people say guns kill people. Because if guns killed people, we'd be seeing guns walking the streets. We'd be seeing guns driving cars down to, the local gang hangout and shooting people. But in order for a gun to fire, there has to be one of these. You have to have one of these. Everyone has two, and you can use either one to do it. And you have to actually pull the trigger. So maybe for just a moment, think and consider and put aside your hatred of guns and look at this from an objective standpoint. Look at this from the standpoint of functionality. When you want to start your car, what do? You put the key in the ignition and you turn the key and the car starts, right? The car doesn't start itself, okay? Even the push button ones, the electric cars, you got to push a button to start it, okay? You need to actually give that command. And guns are no different. In order for a gun to fire, you have to actually tell that gun to fire. You have to pull that trigger. That trigger has to be pulled. That trigger has to be manipulated. The gun doesn't do it on its own, okay? And some guns can fire if you drop them, but that's a different situation. Okay, that's not a situation where someone is being intentionally harmful to somebody. It can definitely be harmful, and it's a negligent discharge, but we're talking about the intent to kill. In order to tell a gun in order for a gun to kill somebody, that trigger has to be manipulated. And the only way to do that is by pulling the trigger. Okay? Accidental shootings, where a kid gets a hold of a gun. Okay? Again, the trigger has to be pulled. And should a child know that particular weapon is dangerous and could kill them? Absolutely. Absolutely, they should know. And if they're too young to know, if they're too young to understand that, then the gun should never be within their reach. We had an incident just recently in my hometown here nearby where I live now, where a 5-year-old lost their life because they found a pistol in, I guess, a backpack or something, and they were playing with it, and they ended up shooting themselves. And that's awful. The weapon never should have been within the reach of that child. I'm a parent, and I own firearms, and I could never, ever forgive myself if something like that happened to my son or any member of my family. I would never forgive myself. So the people that allow for this to happen are just as guilty as the people that go out and intentionally kill somebody. Intentionally pull that trigger and tell that gun to kill somebody. All that being said, this still isn't a gun problem. Because in order for it to function, there has to be human interaction. A human has to actually take that initiative and tell that gun to do that. It's not a gun problem. It's a society's problem. It's a problem with you. It's a problem with me. It's a problem with the millions of other people that live in this country. We need to learn to stop looking at everybody with such disdain and such hate. And we need to learn to not even love somebody, but just to tolerate somebody. We need to learn to just get along and stop thinking of other people as the enemy or thinking of other people as different. Okay? You're an American. I'm an American. Maybe you're not an American. I don't care. Okay? And you shouldn't either. All right? Whether you're black or Asian or Hispanic or Native American or European, it doesn't matter. Okay? I'm going to look at you the same way, and I'm going to treat you the same way. And I'm going to treat you the way that you treat me. And even if you don't treat me well, I'll probably treat you well. Okay? Because I'm tolerant of other people, of people that are different, whether you're straight or gay or bisexual or transgendered or you don't know. I don't care. Okay? I don't give a fuck what you're into. Okay? And that might sound mean out of context, but in context, I don't care because it doesn't matter to me. Okay? It doesn't make me treat you any differently. And it shouldn't make you treat someone else differently. Okay? Hold the door open for somebody. Let someone get in front of you in line for coffee in the morning. You're not going to die. Okay? You're not going to die from being nice to somebody. Just learn to tolerate other people. Learn to start getting along. Learn to stop thinking of everybody else as different and accepting other people. Okay? It doesn't matter about guns. It doesn't matter about politics. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter about local laws. Nothing matters other than you treating someone else with some basic level of dignity and respect. Okay? Everyone's so concerned about this stuff that they've lost sight of what everything else out there means and how everything else matters and fits into their lives. They don't understand that this doesn't matter. It's unfortunate that so much of our society now relies on this, that we've forgotten everything else. We've forgotten how to be humans. Everyone's so concerned with filling their pockets with cash that we forgot how to be decent to one another. And it takes a major incident. It takes a major tragedy to bring people together. And that's disgusting. It shouldn't take a 9/11 for people to hug each other, for just random strangers to hug each other and to hold hands and to cry together. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't take that. 9/11 is the last thing that I can remember seeing other people just being decent to each other. And it's unfortunate that it was politicized so much, so heavily after it happened. George Bush this, George Bush that. I don't care. It happened. And we had to come back as a country from it. And hundreds and hundreds of people died. And there was millions upon millions and millions of dollars of damage. And it changed this country. It changed New York City. It changed this country. It changed the world. And that was the last time I can remember actually seeing people just unprovoked, just being nice to each other. There was Katrina. There were the hurricanes that we had, the really devastating hurricanes that places are still dealing with now. Puerto Rico, Florida, Texas. Even then, even those instances, it was so politicized that you couldn't see through it to see the kindness and the helping that was going on. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't take a national tragedy to bring us together. We should just be able to get along and be just tolerant. And I think if we could just be tolerant to one another, just starting small, it would build into bigger and better things in the years to come. And it may take 100 years, because this country has been on the downslope, on the decline for so long that it will take a very long time. But my belief is that if we don't do something to change how we are as a society, if we don't learn to just get along and tolerate, we're going to end up killing ourselves out. We're going to vanish. We're on the brink of nuclear war. And I know that a lot of people don't believe that. I firmly believe this is where politics does come into play. I firmly believe that with our current leadership and with the current leadership over in the other country, we are on the brink of nuclear war. And it may not be a world war. It may not be one guy launches nukes and the rest of the world retaliates. It may be just between two countries. But that alone would be devastating to this world, to this planet. We have enough nuclear arsenal to end life on this planet. We would vanish in a matter of months. Because obviously people within a 100-mile radius of ground zero would be vaporized. They would just immediately cease to exist. But then after fallout spreads, after all of the contamination spreads around the globe with the weather patterns, it would cool the earth. And I know people are saying, oh, well, global warming, maybe it would solve things. Well, climate change is bad regardless of how you look at it, whether it's up or down. Because the shock to the planet and the way that the means of it affect how everything works on the planet, how wildlife works, how farming and agriculture works. So all of a sudden, there would be no food. And everything would be contaminated for thousands of years. Okay? So when the food runs out, what do? That's it. Life is over. So obviously nuclear war, I think we've established nuclear war is a bad thing. And I hope it doesn't come to that. I think that the lunatic that we have in office right now, maybe someone will get through to him and say, stop beating your chest, figure out a way to solve this problem that doesn't involve turning North Korea into a sheet of glass and risk turning us into ash. That's the only political thing I'm going to get into, because politics are an awful, awful thing. It is a way for grown adults to act like total children. And politics have helped ruin this country. Because people take too much, they take too much of their time focusing on politics that they've forgotten how to, behave, I guess, or how to treat other people. They look at whoever our current leader is, whether it be the Mango Mussolini or someone else, and they decide, oh, well, I'm going to be just like him. He's a good role model. Politicians are not good role models. Okay? Athletes aren't good role models. Okay? You want a good role model, go to your local fire station. Okay? Talk to a fireman. Talk to a paramedic. Ask them about what they do. Ask them about their jobs. Okay? Go to your local emergency management office. Talk to the director. Ask them what they do. And 9 out of 10 of those people will say, I help other people. All right? What do athletes do? What do politicians do? They help themselves. How does that help society? How am I any better off if my senator makes $1 million a year because of deals that he's worked? How does that help me out? It doesn't help anyone out except the politician, except the athlete. The athlete's the one making millions of dollars a year, while our teachers are making jack shit for money. Okay? It's disgusting. Because everything relies on this in this country. You can't even live in this country if you don't have stacks and stacks of this. And people are working literally to their deaths just to make some of this, to be able to buy food and to be able to support their families and to raise their children. This needs to stop being so important. We need to learn to get along and be tolerant and just exist, coexist. Because if we don't, we're going to destroy ourselves. I guess I'm fortunate in that I don't know anybody, at least that I've been made aware of so far, that was in Vegas at the time of the incident. I'm thankful for that. I am incredibly sad for all the people who have lost loved ones, for families that have been broken because of this, for people that have been taken away, innocent people that lost their lives because of this. The only answer is that we start learning to be tolerant of other people and stop getting rid of the hate. Everybody on this earth has just as much right as anyone else to be here. And we need to understand that. I hope that if you take one thing away from this half-hour-long rant, is that you just got to go out and be good to people. Don't, go out of your way. Don't change someone's world. But just start small. Like I said, just hold the door open for somebody or smile at somebody. You don't have to turn into a hippie and peace, love, all that stuff. Just be tolerant. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.